This is Mike Sylvia with the Bedford Guy here with your mayor, John Mitchell. Here to ask some questions. If you have questions, go ahead and post them, and I'll ask the mayor. First thing, so you recently won an award. You went off to a mayor's conference, and it was more for like climate, wind, energy. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So what we won was the U.S. Conference of Mayors Climate Protection Award. The U.S. Conference of Mayors is the leading municipal association in America. It's a very influential body, and it has mayors who are really members of it's members of mayors of just about every city in the country, over 30,000. And so we were recognized for our green energy efforts. And, you know, I think so. We've talked a little bit about green energy in the last few years, but what people need to know is that New Bedford really is a big leader in this area. According to the Wall Street Journal, New Bedford has more installed solar capacity per capita than any city in the continental U.S. We've got more electric vehicles. We've got more electric vehicles than any city in Massachusetts. We have the third largest residential aggregation program in the country. This is where people pay in, people subscribe to a big buying pool to save on electricity costs. You know, we've doubled the recycling rate. And then we're big in offshore wind and getting bigger. We've got an anaerobic digester. There's a lot of great stuff going on, and you know, what's great about it is, of course, we're saving taxpayers a lot of money over many years. But it's also really good for the city's image. I mean, it's what's important to me, it seems, is, you know, for a city that for a long time has been seen as a follower, someone trailing behind the pack, lagging behind. You know, we're not only keeping up, we're out ahead, and other cities are trying to do what we're doing now. And so that's a good place for us to be. It should give us confidence that we can tackle big things. And so the conference's award is a way of recognizing all that.
So Christine asked, and I had this, so Fairhaven New Bedford Bridge was closed pretty much last night, and it always seems to be under construction. Is that, do we have any updates on the bridge? Is it, not talking about the replacement of it, but is it going to be kind of okay for the rest of the summer, or is it going to be completely
what the state tells us, it's going to work on it, continue to work on it, but you know, they're not giving us definitive deadlines and timelines for these things. And you know, frankly, it's a big source of frustration. You know, we kicked the contractor out of Pope's Island because they had been there for a long time, and they were taking up space there, you know, without the city's permission. And so we told them, you've got to go. And so, you know, hopefully that will force them to finish this thing up quickly. But you know, we're getting really tired of it. And my feeling is that whole thing has to go. We want the state to replace that bridge so we don't have these constant tie-ups. This is something I've been yapping about for a long time, but that bridge causes an awful lot of traffic, and it constrains the development of the upper harbor, because when it opens up, the passageway is very narrow and we can't get larger vessels into the northern harbor. It's 100 years old. It's a whaling era antique. It looks nice, but it's got to go.
So schools, when you came in office, there was a lot of change that started off.
Yeah.
This coming season, Kearney and Keith Middle School have extended learning program. Can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
so it's accelerated learning, and so the accelerated learning program is a way to give high-achieving students challenges. That we want kids, we want learning in our school system to be tailored to every student. And that means we have to give the supports to kids who need the supports, but we also, for those kids who are excelling, we want to give them the opportunity to really grow. And that's what this accelerated learning program is about. It had been ended at Keith, and now it's being brought back, and it's going to be much bigger and much more demanding on students, but that's what parents want. I think, my personal opinion, accelerated learning and high achievement and pushing kids who are already doing well isn't something just for the suburbs. It's also for our kids in New Bedford. That's what parents want, and that's what this new program's about.
So Jeff Costa asked, now that the train is on a 7 to 10 year hiatus, what does plan B for the city? That's not technically true, but it seems like it's shifting away from Stoughton over to Middleboro.
Yeah, so a lot of this came as a big surprise, and I was a little disappointed that the state really didn't talk to municipal officials in this region ahead of time, and most of the legislators. But what they found is that the cost of the Stoughton line is a lot more than what had been predicted before. and that they have to take a look at the Middleboro Line. I'm skeptical. I want to be, before we step away from the Stoughton route, we need to be sure that those cost figures are accurate. The Middleboro Line has been looked at, but not too seriously over the last several years, because it's pretty clear that that line is going to give us a commute that will be really, really long. Probably when you build in the time to go to the station and to go from the station home to work, it's about a 2-hour commute. And there aren't that many people who are willing to do that. And so before we switch gears and head in that direction, we have to be sure that that's as good as the state can do.
So Nick Belong asks, Tarleton Hill Road has become very rough due to construction. Any word on when the road will be repaved?
Yeah, so I can't give you a definitive time. Great question, though, because Tarleton Hill Road is such a main east-west artery in the north end. There will be some more work done in the time ahead. We know that we've done some work on lining Tarleton Hill Road with trees, and that looks nice. But so it's a project we believe will be done by the end of the summer. But I probably can't be more definitive than that. But what we'll do is, if folks leave any of their contact information or send an email to the city's website, we can get you a more definitive start and end time.
So Josh Mendez talks about this. Obviously, we're not getting a casino. Is there any idea? The aquarium thing always comes up for that spot. Is there any idea what the NSTAR Eversource location is going to be, or is it going to stay like that?
Well, we've been working on that. It's going to require some planning, and people have to remember there are a couple things that people need to know. So first of all, that site's owned by 2 different companies. There's Eversource, the electric company, and then there's a company called Sprague Energy, which is a big shipping company. They're the ones who use those big tanks to ship oil in. And so we're dealing with 2 different property owners and a site that's very contaminated. It'll take time to unravel that, but what I personally would like to see is a mix of uses on that site. So it's 28 acres and it abuts the southern edge of the downtown. So the northern part of that site, in my view, should be in keeping with the development in the downtown, and then the southern end should be more industrial, to be more like what's already in that part. So I see it as a property that marks the transition from the downtown area down to the industrial south. And so there will be more planning in the next few years. We've talked to Eversource about how the city can play a more active role in making that happen. Those discussions have gone fairly well. But that is a site that we have not lost track of. We want to move it because it's a very important site. It's going to take some state money to decontaminate it, it seems to me, and some private money. Eversource is going to need to follow through on it. But what I hope people do is, we had a lot of folks who showed up at our planning sessions. But if folks have particular ideas about that site, I'd like to hear them. We want the benefit of everybody's input.
So a couple people have asked, are we kind of at a stalemate on the Panhandler situation? Is it kind of we just got to deal with it, just live with the people on the board?
No. So it's going to take a little while to chip away at. But so what we're doing is, believe me, as much as anybody else, that issue's frustrated me. We've spent a lot of time making the Octopus, making this area, Route 18, really nice. Kennedy Boulevard, right? We started to call it. But the panhandling is panhandlers are not a great way to greet people as they enter the city. We want to make sure that those people are getting the services they need. We know that a lot of them are from out of town. A lot of them are just have drug problems, and so we're going to continue to enforce the traffic laws. We've seen a reduction in some places. It's still pretty bad at the Octopus, but in some other areas it's gotten a little bit better. We're going to continue to do outreach to all those people through some of our social service agencies. But we also need to discourage people from giving them money. There are plenty of ways to show your charitable inclinations to help other people by giving to some of the great organizations in our city. I encourage people to do that. But when you give money to people who are begging on a sidewalk, you're just furthering their own problems, or you're aggravating their own problems, and it doesn't help anybody. So we're making progress. It's going to take some time, but we'll make sure that we stick with it for the benefit of the people, for the benefit of the city, as well as for the people who are actually engaged in that behavior.
So this is the last weekend for Moz Donuts. We don't see that it's been sold to anyone new or anyone taking over. Is there kind of like Does the city have a transition plan when businesses are looking to close to kind of help get people in there immediately, a new business?
Well, so I've talked to Sheila Lemieux, the owner, about this, and it's a tough business to sell, just because so much of the value in that business is up in her head and her husband's head, how to make those donuts and make them better than anybody on the planet, because they are the best donuts. Like everybody else, I ate Moz Donuts as a kid, and I want them to stick around. And I know the Lemieux really want to keep things going, but everybody, most folks want to retire at some point, and they're certainly entitled to do that. So we're going to continue to talk to them. They're not going anywhere. They're not leaving New Bedford. So if we can get that business in somebody else's hands and help them transition to a point where they know the formula to the secret sauce, how to make those great donuts, then we can keep that business up and running. But I want to do as much as we can to make that happen.
So there's still the fire department's still doing their brownout blackouts. Today I think fire engine 1 was browned out. Is there a long-term solution to this, or is that something we have to deal with?
No, the solution is that policy will end once the new station in the south end is built. We're consolidating 2 stations in the south end, Station 6 and 11, into a new public safety center. Will be including the South End Police Station in that as well, so that we can have a multi-dimensional facility in the South End, and also save money on reducing the overall footprint of both departments. So that's the answer. And the brownouts were recommended to me by Chief Gomes as a way of maintaining public safety without overspending the fire department's budget. We're going to continue to stick with it. We haven't seen a risk to public safety. The chief is comfortable with it, and we'll transition off probably in about a year to a more permanent state of affairs once we have that new facility in place.
So we heard yesterday about a 11-barrel brewery and restaurant downtown on Union, and we've obviously, the old Candleworks spot is that still going to be a hotel? Is that still all planned out? Or?
No, I think that so the Candleworks site will be a restaurant. I think there's some plans for some meeting space in there, event space in there, which is good. We certainly need more of that in the downtown. Albert Santos, the owner of the Black Whale, is in the process of buying it. I can't tell you if the sale's closed yet, but that's the latest there. But that's great. He's done a great job with the Black Whale. He'd be a great owner of the Candleworks. The brewery is a great addition to the downtown. That investor group is all local folks. They've jumped on that. They're putting in well over $1 million in investment, their own money into the thing. And we're long overdue for a brewery. There are breweries springing up all over cities large and small in the United States, and that one's going to be great. You'll see me there when the place opens up. And that's just, those are 2 investments in the downtown. There's another small restaurant opening up on Union Street in the next few weeks. We got the new hotel further up Union Street that will be moving along. A restaurant will be going in there, and then there's a lot of restaurant interest in downtown New Bedford. There are other folks who have restaurants in other places who are looking at us because they're starting to recognize that downtown New Bedford is really on the rise now, and that it's a great place to go out to eat. And one thing to keep in mind is that folks we have a lot of people now, more and more people now from surrounding communities coming to the city, particularly downtown, to go out to eat. And in the summertime, when the summer population of those surrounding towns swells, the businesses here in New Bedford do really well by it.
So we've got a few asks about is there plans to clean up the Butwood Park pond? You're saying that it's toxic?
Yeah. Well, it's not toxic. It needs to be dredged. It's silted over. And in the next couple of years, it'll be dredged out. Every few years, it has to be dredged, and that's in the works. So if you notice, we dredged out the pond at Brooklawn Park, the duck pond, put new fencing around it, cleaned it all up. If you've been out there, you'd agree it looks fantastic. So the pond at Butwood's obviously larger. It's going to take some more work, but it is that dredging project's in the pipeline.
So here's a personal question. Christine asks, do you enjoy your job? It seems quite challenging.
I enjoy it, and yes, it is quite challenging. No, look, it's an intense job, and there's some tough moments, of course, but I derive a lot of satisfaction being able to get up in the morning and help people out. I do. That's what gets me up in the morning. It keeps me up at night too, but it feels good every day to really work hard and have a really strong team in place in a city that is on board with the challenges and on board with the opportunities, and we're really making things happen, and people are starting to notice, not just in the region but really around the country, including at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. They're really seeing New Bedford as emerging as one of the leading cities in the Northeast, and that's something that excites me. The little stuff also excites me too. Every time, I'll just say this, it wasn't something I expected when I became mayor. One of the things that does make me feel gratified is when I go to things like wakes, when people are at their most vulnerable and I can show up, and it's a big thing for them if the mayor shows up. And it's a minor inconvenience for me sometimes, but it's a big thing for the family, and that I have the ability to do that by virtue of my position is something that makes me feel good, because it makes them feel good. So there are ways, they're big and small, that the job offers offers me some measure of happiness.
So Josh Mendez asked, Mayor, what's your hours and availability to meet with residents? So if someone wanted to actually get some time with you, do they just call your office? Or
yeah, that's how it works. Some mayors have done office hours and stuff, but I've talked to other mayors about that. What they found is that there are times when people don't show up. You carve out time and you can maybe go do it in City Hall, or you do it somewhere else, and the attendance is sporadic. So the approach I've taken is, we've just set it up on an ad hoc basis, and most of the stuff that people come to me with, are constituent issues that can be handled by departments, potholes filling and tree trimming and stuff, sidewalks being fixed. They don't need a meeting with me to deal with that, so those usually get passed off to the department heads who follow through. But there are people who need to meet with me, and we set those things up, so people should just call the mayor's office.
So we have a new police chief, new deputy, Captain Cadero, very popular.
Yep.
So we're kind of in the full swing now. What are some of the priorities you've given him to take on?
Yeah, I think so. There are a couple of things. So there are parts. So the city overall is experiencing a very sharp drop in crime, which is good, but not every neighborhood is experiencing that. And there are parts of the city where they need special attention. To give you an example, the near North End, there are certain blocks that really do need a lot of attention, and so we need to put resources in there. I think Chief Cadero's approach to community policing, his philosophy is the right one. He has tried to cultivate, he is working on cultivating an ethic in the department whereby everybody feels like they own their neighborhood. Every police officer isn't just doing a patrol in the neighborhood. It has to be a feeling of ownership and a bond with folks in your neighborhood. That's what's really important. So their problems are the police department's problems. And so police officers have a tough job. They have to exercise really sound judgment all the time, and sometimes not with, it doesn't come with the gratitude that they deserve, but they get that. But at bottom, what they're doing is service. And Joe, I think, is already off to a fast start in cultivating that ethic in his officers. So that's really important. The other thing is, we need some good planning too. I'm a big believer in planning, and we've done planning, master plan, strategic planning, and a lot of departments in city government. In police departments, historically, planning doesn't happen except when there's a crisis. If there's some kind of scandal, or if there's allegations of excessive force, or something bad happens, that's when police departments go back to the drawing board and start over again. It happened 20 years ago in New Bedford with the Morris Pina case. Morris Pina was someone who was in police custody, someone who died in police custody. It was very controversial, and the police department brought in some outsiders to do some consulting. We're in a good position now. Dave Preventure ran the department very well. Crime is falling. I think it's a good time for us to step back and look at the city and figure out what the challenges are 5 years out, 10 years out, so that we can set up the department really well to be effective in the long run. Crime changes, neighborhoods change over time, and a big part of policing is just getting out ahead of it, planning a little bit, anticipating. So we're going to go through that process now, and I think we're going to see some areas where we can learn and develop and evolve and become an even stronger police department.
So we'll do a few more because the mayor's got to get to another appointment. So you don't always hear the good. So I'll read off Shelley. She says, "I really feel that you and other people who work for the city have really improved the city over the years that you have served, Mayor. Thank you." So Shelley says that.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
So we'll do the last two. So
Okay.
you're standing behind something we got to announce yesterday.
Yeah.
This is the whaleman statue,
Yeah.
a new whale dedicated to fishermen. I'm sorry, not
Fishermen.
whalemen. Yeah, fisherman statue. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so you know, this was something that I looked forward to right from the beginning when I first got into office. You know, I'm from a fishing family, and like a lot of other people who have some connections in the industry, and I really felt that there should be a monument to our fishermen, just as there's a monument to our whalemen that everybody loves. That's a New Bedford icon. We hope that this is, but it's only appropriate. Just as we have a whaleman statue here in the center of the one-time center of the whaling industry in the world, there should be a monument to fishermen and fishing families here in the largest commercial fishing port in America. I go around all the time touting the fact that we're the number one fishing port in America and the center of the fishing industry on the East Coast, because it's a source of pride, but it's also a good way to market the city. But you know, we need to have things like this so that everybody can contemplate what fishermen do and what families go through in support of fishermen. This is a big part of our identity. And my hope for this statue, for this monument, done by Eric Duran, who really, I think, captures something essential about the industry, is that, you know, it becomes a place where, you know, fishermen can spend a quiet moment in contemplation and gain some inspiration from that, where fishing families can draw some pride and support. But I also hope it's a place where all of our residents and visitors to the city can say with pride, point to it and say, you know, that right there, that's New Bedford, and you know, we're a place like nowhere else in the country. This is something special and unique about us. So I think it's great. I hope people come down here. It's illuminated. DPI did a nice job with the base. It's meant to be very approachable. We saw that yesterday with a lot of kids gathering around it, and it'll be illuminated at night. It'll look sharp, and it's something that I think everybody will take pride in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know. I remember when it was Candidate Mitchell back in the day, and we did an interview at Celtic Coffee, that you have I think it's a grandfather in the Seaman's Bethel on the wall, right?
Yeah, I've had a number of family members who are in the fishing industry. My grandfather was lost at sea, and it was nice yesterday that my grandfather left behind 6 kids, and the 6 men who were on his boat left behind a total of 28 kids. It was an awful thing, and it was nice to see, you know, my uncles and my cousins in the audience, my father. It was just a nice moment for a lot of folks.
Okay, so let's end with that. Thank you, Mayor Mitchell, for your time.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike.